So the topic for today, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if I could. So these are the handouts. Hopefully you guys can see my shared screen. Okay. And if for any reason you can't see it, then just unmute yourself and just let me know if you're struggling here. But I just sent this out maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. And the topic for today is talking about second mortgages. So many people out there in the last, I'm going to say even pre-COVID, 2019 through March of last year, 2022, we had a 3-year run where rates on first mortgages was so good. Even during COVID, it's just unheard of. We did dozens and dozens of VA loans that were in the 1% range for all matters. I think 1.75 is still very doable 30-year fixed rate during COVID. So the need for money for additional cash out, home improvements, maybe down payment on another property, getting a lot of inquiries for second mortgages here of late. And so if nothing else, I just wanted to kick it around and talk about, what is the almighty second? How do they work? We're going to look at a couple different options in here for pricing as well. Where do they come into play? Where do they make sense for people? And where might there be something better out there? Sometimes, unbeknownst to the customers that we work with, we have this notion that they know more than we do. And when they come to us like, oh, I want this. And you're looking at from your professional opinion, like there's something that's a lot better, more favorable and better suited for your situation. If at the very least, just bringing up examples and options to people tends to open up some eyes, say the least. So the two types of second mortgages that are out there, the HELOC, the acronym that most people, home equity line of credit, or an equity line, would be the adjustable rate second mortgage, and the equity loan, or what some lenders out there, home equity loan, would be the fixed rate option. So is a quick explanation of the two, and not to dwell on this by any means, but the equity line right below here, the HELOC gets a 10-year draw period. What does that mean? That means if you have a $100,000 equity line for the first 10 years, I can draw against it, pay it down, draw against it. If I'm a self-employed, let's say I'm a contractor, home improvement contractor, and I sell a job, well, maybe I got to come out of pocket for $25,000, $30,000 in materials. And then once I finish the job, or maybe I get a 50%, upfront deposit when I finish the job, is really where I realize my profits. Maybe the equity line would be something that I could draw against in that situation, finish the job, pay the line balance down, and then I have it at my discretion to use it whenever I want to use it. For some folks out there, if they don't have the immediate thought that they're going to be paying it down anytime quickly, I would be the first to tell you that the equity lines, we're going to look at the rate sheet, but the equity lines are all based on the prime rate plus a particular margin. And the prime rate has gone up every single time the Fed's met through the course of last year. And it's now smaller increases, but still looking at forecasted increase through the course of this year. So good if you think you can pay it down quickly, or if you just want it, just to draw against it, have it there in your hip pocket if you need it. Might be good for somebody that does fix and flips, where they got the equity line there and they can immediately draw against it.
Greg, are you sharing?
I'm sorry?
I can't see the share screen.
You cannot see the shared screen?
No, I
Hang
cannot.
tight. Get out of this. How about now?
Looks like it's coming. Yeah. Now.
Okay,
yes.
good answer. Thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So the only thing that we were talking about here at the top is this equity line and equity loan. And the equity line here gets a 10-year draw period. The 10-year draw period, you got to at least make minimum interest-only payments. So it's simple. I didn't put it in here because it to get to the interest only payment, it's a loan amount times the rate divided by 12. As cut and dry as it is. If you had a $100,000 balance at a 12% rate, annual interest is $12,000 divided by 12 is $1,000 a month interest only. So whatever they owe per month is loan amount balance, not the original line size, balance times rate divided by 12. So it changes month to month as you draw against it and you pay it down. Okay, got to at least make a minimum interest only payment. Can make principal reductions if you choose to, no problem. Okay, whatever the balance that is owed at the end of year 10 is then converted to a 20-year principal and interest payment. So it's paid in full at year 30. I apologize. 20 years from there, it's total year 30. So 20 years from there, 30-year total term. So this would be 10-year interest only if you chose it, 20-year P&I at the end of 30-year mark, zero balance. So for the next 20 years, you can't draw against it and pay it down. It's locked in, whatever that prevailing rate is at the time that you adjust. Okay, there were some people when adjustments hit, when the economy was down in 07, 08, and all of a sudden they're in adjustable rate mortgages, the adjustment hit and the payment was not affordable. You know, what are options you have at this, 10-year mark? Is maybe if the payment's not affordable, you got to roll it into the new first and do a cash out refi. I don't know, but that's kind of like just the nature of that particular type of product or program. Certainly, if you sell the house before year 10, then you'd pay off the balance of whatever you owe against it. Okay, the fixed rate second is fixed rate. We'll look at the rate sheet here in just a little bit, but it's a standard fixed rate and amortized over time. Set standard payments. The fixed rate, everything's dispersed at the time of closing. When I say that, the whole loan amount, you borrow $100,000, whatever the costs are paid at the time of closing, whatever the net proceeds in the loan amount on the equity loan is all dispersed at closing, and you're accruing interest and principal payments right away. The equity line person, it's not necessarily all dispersed at the time of closing. So it's a little bit more of a quote unquote moving target as to what the payment would be month in, month out.
Quick question on the HELOC.
Yes.
Can you pay a higher rate to get a longer payoff period, like a 15-year, or does that not exist? Are they always 10?
Yeah, they're very few and far between. So, and I'm gonna look at, when we look at the rate sheet, even the life cap, which is the maximum the rate could ever go to over time, is one of those things that it's pretty locked in. I will say, Dave, that there are some credit unions that do have certain features where you can lock in certain draws on the equity line. So if you're drawing money, let's say, I'm doing a swimming pool in the backyard, or I'm doing some project, it's a $20,000 deal. I'm going to pay it off as soon as I can. There are some members credit unions that have a point in time where you literally can put the foot in the door and lock in that particular chunk of money that's been borrowed, and lock in the rate at that spot in time. The lender that I'm going to show you here at the end of our session here today, they do not have that lock in place anytime during the loan. On the equity line, it's adjustable.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, there might be some little nuances out there. I'm going to say, in fairness, probably 94 or 5% of the equity lines are 10-year draw, 20-year repay, paid zero balance in 30 years if you kept it that long. Understood. Overwhelming majority.
Okay, and then just not pertaining to this, but is the max deductibility for interest, whether it's a HELOC or first, second, whatever, is it $750,000 now? Yeah,
so an excellent question. And I would be the first anytime that any client of mine would go down that path with me, very first thing I'd be is commend them, like, very intelligent question. And then from my standpoint, what I would suggest, because I'm not a licensed tax preparer,
right?
I definitely have them go to the tax preparer, because there were years ago that even the equity lines through the IRS, the mortgage interest is not deemed tax deductible. So the IRS has kind of even wavered or waffled on, you know, if you have a 1098 INT, which is the mortgage interest tax deduction form, certainly if you get it for your first trust deed all day long, no problem. And then the IRS had certain rules years ago where, well, what was the second use for?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it sometimes it gets into the little nuances where, much like, you know, we're licensed in our profession. I would defer to the licensed professional in that, you know, there are people that go down the path of estate planning, and
oh yeah,
there's a reason why people are that do this stuff for a living. I think it's right in there if I'm not mistaken. But the other thing I'd harken back to any client and people that I talk to on an ongoing basis is, and I just read different news pieces. And the Wall Street Journal is just like one news source for years and years. When it comes around tax time, they'll always put out an article that discusses the number of tax code or tax law changes in one calendar year. And the number is always in the thousands. I've seen some like 3,000, 4,000, some changes. And a lot of it is so specific to if you're growing corn and you're in the state of Iowa and maybe you meet a certain income threshold or your money, you know, more, they're so if and or but it's a tax code law. And I only bring it up to folks because I just wouldn't want to, you know, mislead anybody into feeling,
I appreciate
that.
No,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Greg, I have a question. This is Tess.
Yes. Yep.
Regarding the HELOC, do you have to be in, like, what was they saying about 75% or 80% loan to value? We're gonna look
at the rate sheet. If you can stick around closer to like the 1245, 1250 to 1 o'clock or soon, we'll look at that.
Got it.
We have those up to higher. I think 95% combined loan to value is where they top out. And I, off the top of my head, I think most of the equity lines are probably sitting closer to 90. And I think it's a fixed rate at 95, but we'll look at that here in just a bit.
Got it. Thank you.
You bet. No problem. So benefits of any second mortgage. The number one thing in here, and I hear this all the time from people, I got such a great rate on my first, I don't even want to touch it. Don't even talk to me about it. You know, the rate of my first is 2, 3, whatever the number is. You know, I just want a second. I don't want to touch it first. And in fairness, some people are even kind of bullheaded about it. Like, I'm telling you, I don't want to even talk about that. But from our standpoint, you know, I can't force anybody to do something they don't want to do. If you're not going to share with me the balance that you owe on the first, the interest rate you pay on the first, the payment you make on the first, you won't allow me to at least, you know, kind of see based on my professional opinion, what's in your best interest. You know, I can't force anybody to do something they don't want to do. But in another respect, in comparing the first to the second, and I'm going to go through this example in the term blended rate, but there are a lot of people out there that have come to us asking for second mortgages that have taken cash out refinances because they're sitting better in overall payment and rate as a result than would be if they took the second they originally came in for. So what the heck are we talking about? So on this first, they have an excellent rate on the first. TD is trust deed. That means my first mortgage. And I just want a smaller second trust deed or a second mortgage loan amount. We look out for what the best option would be for the client with the standalone second requested. So you only want a second mortgage. We're not touching the first, plus the existing first compared to the new first trust deed cash out refinance based on what we call a blended rate. Okay, what the hell is that? This is really simple example. And I can do this for anything as intricate, but this is an example we can all just do in our head. Really easy math. So if you had a 2% rate and a $200,000 balance in your first mortgage, and you wanted the exact same $200,000 balance on a second, and let's say the prevailing rate was 12. They both had the exact same weighted average in loan amount. So the blended rate on this is so silly, stupid, easy. It's taking the 2% first plus the 12% second equals 14% total divided by the two loans. Your blended rate in that example would be 7%. I can get any borrower, unless you have just a horrendous credit score, you know, just about any borrower out, but then it would hold true. The second trustee rate might not even be, you know, what we're talking about in the example, but, you know, all things being equal, we can do better on a first mortgage cash out refinance than the 7% blended rate in this example. Okay. Where things get a little twisted. Let's say the balance on the first is 400. And I'll just make up this example here. 400,000. We'll say the balance on the second is only 2. Okay, and the balance on the rate on the first is 2.5. And we'll say the rate on the second is 10. Well, if I'm 400 on the first and 200 on the second, then my weighted balance, my first is twice as much as my second. So therefore, the 2.5% would be weighted twice as much as the 10% second. So 2.5 times 2 is 5, plus the rate on the second at 10 is 15, divided by the weighted average of 3 on that would be a 5% blended rate. So sometimes this doesn't come in. Sometimes it doesn't. If you're looking for a very, very small second, I got a really big first, maybe the second makes sense. You know, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, you know, you look at it and say, why on earth are we doing this loan when we could be doing something that's infinitely better suited for what they're seeking? Okay, so the blended rate is just an opportunity for us to say, and all I need is the first mortgage monthly statement or the coupon, and all it's going to have is whatever the balance is, whatever the payment is. I'm going to have the property address on there. I can see if they're impounded or not. I can see exactly what the property taxes are and the impounded payment. I can set everything up exactly of what they have now. Misconception out there when people refinance that your taxes and insurance would go up, and the refinance doesn't trigger any of that. So it doesn't reassess your property. The only time you'd be reassessed if you pulled permits and made permanent improvements to your home. Then the tax assessor's office is going to come out and reassess, and you're looking at a new tax base or assessed value. But the reality of things is, you know, whatever you have now is going to continue through and after the refi. So this is just one example. If we have a great rate on the first, we just want a smaller second, when does it make sense? I got to look at the bigger picture, you know, and when does it benefit you? How does this work? So that's just one example. Number 2 bullet item in here for second mortgages is when people want to stay away from mortgage insurance. And you know, and mortgage insurance is all relative. You know, all of this I put down at the bottom is kind of a catch-all statement. After we talk about these different options and benefits, every deal in situation with people that we work with is so unique to that specific person. A lot of people I speak to want things, well, you know, can it just be easy where it's just, you know, whatever we say just applies to everyone. And if you wanted something to be quite so simple and easy, you'd miss a lot of transactions. You know, there might be people that if we wanted to catch all, we were talking about the lowest credit scores at the highest rates. And then the people with the great credit scores would be like, why on earth would I ever want to pay that rate? Or we'd look at the highest credit scores with the lowest rates, and the people with the low credit scores are never going to qualify for that. So with every situation, it just really is like, what are we looking for? And what can we do to really, you know, get the best of the best financing option and explain why we're doing what we're doing. So the number 2 in here is stay away from mortgage insurance. This is all 80-10-10 and 80-15-5. These terms have been around forever and a day. It pertains to if I bought a $100,000 property in this 80-10-10 here, that means it's an $80,000 first, $10,000 second, $10,000 in equity. It would be down payment on a purchase or $10,000 in equity on a refi. 80-10-10 just pertains to 80% loan to value first, backed with another 10% or a 90% combined loan to value. So the first plus the second equal 90 and 10% equity. Another common industry term is 80-15-5. Okay, I got 5% equity or 5% down payment. Hey, can I stay away from mortgage insurance? We could buy out the mortgage insurance and go do an add to rate. Maybe it makes better sense to do an 80% LTV first. We'd borrow the most money, biggest loan amount for the most competitive rate. So even on these 80-10-10, 80-15-5, up in here when we talked about blended rates, maybe the 80-10-10 down here to staying away from MI sits better in payment than would be a standalone 90% loan to value. Okay. So staying away from mortgage insurance is just another, and we would only know it by putting it on paper and running the scenario. How does this look? Okay. Is there anything, should we be discussing this? If it turned out it didn't make sense for a prospective client, I would still let them know, hey, I ran options, for a first plus a smaller second to see if there was any betterment to you. And there was not. It makes more sense for you to just do a first mortgage only. But at least they know we've exhausted that option. And if they start talking to someone else where it's like, why the heck did Greg in this 80-15-5 here, why did Greg tell you that you should be doing a 95% loan to value first mortgage? When my competition says, oh, you do an 80-15-5, no mortgage insurance, better rate on the first, better this, better that. That Greg guy doesn't know what he's doing, and he's not looking out for your best interest. So there are points in time, if you don't explore all options, that we might get blown up by somebody else dangling that carrot out there. I put in here any other combo like an 83-27, which is, or that should have been 17. Gosh darn it. I typed this up last night. I apologize for that. That should be 17. My bad for the typo. 80/3/17. It's still 100% financing. What the hell? Why is that? The 80-10-10, 80-15-5 are industry options. And most loans are priced out in 5% increments to your loan to value or combined loan to value. That 80/3/17, I wish I could erase it on the screen right now. It would be if I just missed the 20% down payment. So I put something unique like that for buyers that just missed the 20% down based on cash for closing. So if I'm just short, could I do an 82% loan to value? I could. Could I do an 80% first with a teeny second? I could do that too. Stay away from MI. I'm getting the big loan at the 80 LTV. I put an example in here for this in LA, Orange County, or San Diego. I'm sorry, what? Oh, we're good. LA, Orange County, San Diego County. Purchase price is $950. I want to do a conventional loan with 10% down payment. Okay. If I do a first mortgage of an 80% loan to value, first would be 760. That's 950 times 0.8 is 760,000 on the first. If I wanted the 90 CLTV, once again, 10% down would be the 80-10-10 example up here. So 760 first, $95,000 second. That's 90% financing first plus second, 80-10-10. Okay. I could use that to stay away from the MI. Bigger loan here, smaller loan here, no MI. I'm just looking at options here. In this example, we could also price the first mortgage. So the maximum conforming loan limit, what the hell is that? Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac for 2023, every single year they put out new max loan limits. Conforming loan limit in any county out there, 726,200. And then you have something called a high balance conforming loan limit. LA County, I think it goes up to 977. I think is my max. Hang tight. I got it saved right here on my phone.
Are you talking about making a purchase with this kind of financing? Is that what?
Purchase or refi? Yes.
Okay.
Purchase or refi. Yeah, LA and Orange County, conventional, 1,089,000. So it's a lot higher. That's the high balance, but it's a little different pricing. Okay, so if I go over 726,200 in LA County all the way up to 1,089,000, they'll still do it through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but they have pricing adjustments. So the only thing I'm suggesting here is if I'm just missing the cutoff of this 726,200, where I can get the sweet spot for the best rates that are out there, maybe I don't even take the first for 760. Maybe I take the first for 726,200 and I roll the difference of this 95,000 second up here and I roll it down to 128.8. So I get the same 90% financing. Maybe I'm sitting even a lower payment, based on that price point. I'd only know by putting it on paper and seeing, does it make sense or doesn't it? So there are purchases out there, not to convolute matters. I would never share any options with borrowers that don't make sense for them on paper. Like, look at all these numbers and everything that I worked up that don't make any sense for you that you would never take. So we would never start just throwing paperwork at them. It's nonsensical. Like, what? Huh? It's so confusing. But if nothing else, it would be prudent to look at, hey, where are we on this? What is the spread? How close are we to certain price breaks? What is in their best interest? The mortgage insurance that's in here, it's not benefiting. We've talked about that in prior trainings. Doesn't benefit the borrower per se. It's the mortgage insurance that clients pay, borrowers pay, benefits the lender. God forbid if the borrower defaults in any high-end loan-to-values, high equity positions. So it's really protecting the lender, and the borrower gets no tax benefit from the mortgage interest. There's no deduction to their income tax base. So this is just an example here to stay away from MI, like a smaller second. If I can get the big loan for the most competitive rate, that would be just the reasoning behind why would anybody ever take that. Number 3 in here is to stay within certain county or loan program loan amount limits for the best pricing, most favorable pricing. What the heck is that? I put an example in here for Riverside County on a conventional loan, 5% down payment. On my example, this is, man, I should have proofread this. I apologize, people. I'm going to put out a new one of these right after this with 3 typos. This is an FHA example because that 644 is max FHA in Riverside County. So if I had an FHA example, I will retype this and send it out with the revision email. I apologize. The 644 is the max Riverside County loan limit for FHA. 726,200 is max conforming. So the point that I was trying to make here is if we had a purchase price, it's 690 in Riverside County with 5% down, maybe it makes better sense to kind of do a very small second to stay within the same. And maybe we get a little bit better pricing at a base loan amount rather than fight it. We fight these Riverside County loan limits because we don't have high balance in Riverside or San Bernardino. So the seconds on Riverside, San Bernardino properties pick up where FHA base loan limit 644,000 and conventional base loan limit 726,200, where they leave off is where we pick up in Riverside and San Bernardino County for smaller seconds. So we have the same loan to value limits for FHA and for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but the difference is that we don't have the same loan limits. So sometimes there's a smaller, you just miss a price break. I needed to go with this particular type of loan. I needed the first to be this FHA loan at 644, but yet they don't have the money. They want to buy a 690 home. That should be FHA, 5% down, 644 max Riverside County. Back it up with the small second. Okay. And it still gets them in. So sometimes we're missing even a loan limit. Maybe it's a county limit. Maybe the loan program says we'll lend up to maximum $1 million under this particular credit score. Maybe I needed $1,050,000. Well, it doesn't mean, geez, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Maybe we do a smaller second to stay within certain max loan program limits, stay within certain county max loan limits. What gets confusing is we have a lot of counties that meet. I've talked about this briefly in prior training, but it gets very confusing when you have buyers that are maybe up and down like the 210 corridor, when you're right on the cusp of like an LA County, Temple City, Arcadia, those areas. And then you start drifting back towards like the 210, 57. And now I'm drifting into maybe Upland. And now I'm into maybe a San Bernardino County. Well, I don't have the same loan limits. And we're teetering on a purchase price where maybe, the money that somebody has for closing, it's materially affected by even the location of the property, and what they're seeking, what they have for closing. So the county limits, the loan program limits, it could be maybe a smaller second just picks up where we need, for something else that left off. So that conventional, I'm going to shoot this back out, should be FHA. I'll correct these couple few. I apologize for that. trying to create these for thought-provoking examples for myself also, and even just putting it together. I'll make it right. The quote here that I put in here on countless scenarios that could be run and every deal is unique. I can't impress upon that enough. It's so difficult. You know, what if we have a purchase price for $769.9, and what if this, and what if that? There's so many different options that are out there. Even gift money. I had a conversation with one of our loan officers that's a dual agent just yesterday, and was talking about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and there are even options within Freddie Mac that we can go with all gift money. So it might be even just something where it's all gift money, but we need a conventional loan. There could be something where, how do I piece this particular, scenario or situation together? So yeah, just there's so many different, like I say, the if, and, or, but type scenarios that anything to run through. With some of them, they're easy, quick fixes. I can immediately just rip through them. Others, it might take a little bit of time to price them out and see what's in anybody's best interest. But happy to do the legwork. And then I mentioned this till I'm blue in the face, but happy to also pair you up with people that you can match up with and that can, really figure out who's offering the most favorable financing options for anybody's situation. So I put my contact information at the bottom of this piece too. I do want to spend the last 15 minutes or so and go through a couple of pricing scenarios. So this Spring EQ, they're a huge nationwide, they do standalone seconds. One of the biggest second mortgage lenders that's out there in the nation right now. And they're right up there with like a Wells Fargo or Chase that's doing a lot of them as well. Their pricing is very competitive for this space. And it looks very high, but if I came back, this prime rate here, 7.75%, the prime rate, if I went back 3 years ago, prime rate's gone up quite a bit. It was teetering around 0.5, during COVID. So it's gone up like 7.5 percentage points just in a few years. Last year it was going up 0.75% every time the Fed met. So right now the prime's at 7.75. I only say that if the prime was at a quarter and I was at a 740, I highlighted the 740 credit score in an 80% equity position. The margin is 3.25 right here, base margin. If the prime rate was only 0.25, then I'm getting an equity line at 3.5%. Great rate. As it stands right now with the prime rate at 7.75 and a 3.25 margin, I'm up here at a fully indexed rate at 11%. I'm not saying, oh, geez, that's terrible, but it is what it is. And a 740 credit score to an 80% combined loan to value seems to be a pretty good risk. You have equity and you have good credit. So if you're down here at the 660 credit score to an 80 LTV, CLTV, then you're at 6.5% way down here, plus 7.75. So it goes up. I put up the 95% CLTV here. So to answer your question, Tess, to back it up, you can get as high as 95% financing on the equity line. It depends on what your credit score is to drive which margin you're otherwise looking at. So I highlighted here the 740 credit score to 759, 95% equity position. You're at 7.75 plus 6.5. So you're going to be up at 14.25 for the second. Under those like how much money are you borrowing? That's why when we get to the blended rates, does it make more sense to do a cash out refi? Certainly, if I need the money, the cash out refis are going to top out at this 85 number, FHA. So you're not going to be getting 95% cash out. So if you need money and we're refinancing, maybe we got to go to the 95 CLTV second to get the money they want. But even at the 14.25, interest rates are in the 20% right now. I just read a clip earlier in the week. I think credit card debt in the United States of America right now is somewhere in the 950 billion with the B, $940 billion in credit card debt nationwide. And the average interest rate nationwide is over 20% APR. So, if I'm looking at somebody that even wants to pay off debt, I'm paying credit card rates in the 20s. You know, can I get, you know, rates on the seconds that are somewhere in the 11, 12, 13? Yeah. You know, and then parlay the tax deduction on the interest side of it as well. But the equity lines, I highlighted down here also, just so, and there's all kinds of notes on here. So this is all primary residence. If they have a second home, there's an adjustment to the rate. The equity line here, they don't do for investment properties. I think there's a little note down here on their sheet. Yeah. Investment properties not permitted. They do them on fixed rates. But this is primary residence property. It's a 30-year variable rate, index plus margin, the 10-year initial interest only draw period, 20-year fully amortizing repayment. Life cap 18% less prohibited by law. What does that mean? That means if my margin was 6.5 right here, and the life cap was 18, that means if the prime rate went up to 11.5%, plus 6.5 is an 18% would be the rate you'd be paying. If the prime rate went to 12, I would not go to 12 plus 6.5 at 18.5. I'd be capped at 18. It's not comforting to be capped at 18, but it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. And then, so that's the lifetime cap or the ceiling. How high could it ever go if rates continue to go up? That's as high as it could go. The lifetime floor or the base rates ever is the lower of the initial rate that you took or 4%. So right now, based on these initial rates, 4% would be the floor. So it's never going to go lower than 4. So if we went to this scenario down here and the prime rate was back to early COVID at 0.25%, you're at a 740 score, 80 CLTV at 3.25, 3.25 plus if prime went all the way down to 0.25, they wouldn't give you the 3.5. You'd be getting the minimum rate here at 4. Big deal. Still a great rate. But they have certain adjustments to the rate. There's certain pricing adjustments. This is just loosely the quick equity line. And this is all what the industry calls risk-based pricing. So why does this person at a 780 plus credit score, way up here on the top left, at a 60% combined loan to value, 1.875, comparison all the way down to the bottom right corner, 95 CLTV with the 700 to 719 credit score at 7. It's over 5 points higher in rate because the 95 CLTV with the 700 credit score is infinitely more risky and requires a higher interest rate, you know, to offset that risk than a 60% combined loan to value with the 780 plus score. Okay. If I scroll down and in the attachment, I put red asterisks next to the couple of sheets that I wanted to discuss for fixed rates and for equity lines. So if you scroll down the email attachment to the next one that had the big red asterisks, this is a second lien fixed rate. And this top box up here is 25 to 30-year fixed rates. The one below here is 5-year to 20-year fixed rates. Pricing is a little bit better. I highlighted the 25 to 30. Most people want to keep the payment down. Okay. So if I'm in a 30-year fixed rate second, what does that look like for the same 740, 80 LTV? 10.625 fixed rate. The equity line up here was at 11. All the way up here. Sorry to get you dizzy by scrolling up. But the same 80 CLTV 740 score with the equity line was 11. The fixed rate second, 10.625, but the fixed rate second, you are locked in for the life of the loan at 10.625. The equity line is probably going to creep up a little bit more than the 11% through the course of this year with the Fed increases. So it's all relative. If you don't need the money all at one time, maybe the equity line just for that one particular feature makes more sense for the borrower. I don't need all this money right now. I just need it in increments. I'm going to pay it down, draw against it, pay it down. That's what I want. Then don't take the fixed rate second. Take the equity line. So even though you're paying a little higher in rate, maybe I don't have the money all the time and I'm not paying that double-digit rate 365 days a year. Maybe it's only the days that I have money actually extended on the equity line. So there's merit and benefit. The fixed rate loans, they top out with Spring EQ at 90% combined loan to value. Okay. There are pricing adjustments they have. and they do rentals, investment properties, but these are all add to the rate, 1.25% to the rate, and second homes are 0.7% to the rate. So they don't get quite the same security interest as the owner-occupied fixed rate seconds. Okay, this is just one example. We have several lenders that do second trust deeds. So this is just one lender. I put this out because their rate sheet and matrix, it's really easy to read. It's very simple, like, okay, I understand, you know. And then conversely, if you had, let's take a 70% combined loan to value all the way down here to 680 at this 11.25 on the loan, 11.25. If I had a rental, I'd add 1.25 to that. So my rental property would be 11.25 plus 1.25 is a 12.5% rate. Okay. So, and even the big dog loan amounts, if I have a loan amount in excess of $200,000, they actually take the rate down by 1/4%. They say, hey, we like those. You make more money on those. Conversely, if you have a smaller loan amount down here, they charge you more money in rate. Okay. So the equity lines, the equity loans of what's out there, it sounds like a very, very great, like simple way to go. It's just so easy. It's just a second, you know, this is very simple stuff. You know, the reality of things is the second mortgage requires just about the same paperwork as the first mortgage does. You still need to verify your income. You still need to run the credit. There's still a valuation involved. It might be a lesser than a full appraisal. They might do what they call a drive-by or statistical valuation. The title insurance is just a limited title insurance for the smaller second. But the reality, it's still a real estate loan. You know, so it's not like these second mortgages. It's not like a hard money loan that's funding in 7 to 10 days. They're still running in the 30-day or so time period to close. So even from the standpoint of comparing one to another, if we're running the first and the second concurrently, there are lenders that will do both loans. Keep it super simple. We'll keep it together, no problem. UWM be a great example of that. UWM offers equity lines only right now, though. So I wanted to talk about fixed rate second. So I didn't show you the UWM pricing, you know, just as one example. But if we were doing an 80-10-10 and it was an equity line second, you could pair them both up with UWM, you're going to get your second mortgage for free. Super simple. They're both being underwritten by the exact same lender in the exact same time period. Left hand knows what the right hand's doing. There's nothing really, no heavy lifting. It's very easy. And there are a handful of lenders. When you do a first and a second together, the industry calls those a piggyback second, which means the second's done at the same time. It just piggybacks the first. So standalone second means it's done by itself. It's not done with a concurrent first. But from the standpoint of options and what's out there, you know, like I say, if you're teetering up in that higher rate at 14% and you're telling me, oh, no, you know, I'm not touching the first, I got a great rate. The 14% plus 14.625, it's like, you know, it is a bit of a sticker shock. It is a large rate payment, the whole bit. You know, at the end of the day, you know, does it make better sense, you know, for you to look at redoing the first? You know, it's all relative from our standpoint. You know, a deal's a deal. If you're going to put a first and a second together, any one of our loan officers half-witted enough that does an equity line for someone should be staying on top of that client for an eventual refinance, because right, wrong, or indifferent, the equity lines are sitting a little bit more like a ticking time bomb, you know, as they're just continuing to go up in rate. So if they ever want to lock it in, you know, be done with it, then more power. But it definitely makes sense for some folks. I'm not going to discount them. So yeah, from the standpoint of what's out there, what's available, and why anybody would ever take it, you know, that's basically it in a nutshell. You know, I'm just racking my brain. Anytime a second could ever come into play, And these are pretty much the three instances that might make sense. And like I say, if we're making money internally from us as a lender standpoint, if we're making money on the first mortgage, none of us have any problem. It's not like, the second be done absolutely at a cost. So, I mean, whatever that small little admin fee or whatever the fee is with Spring EQ, if they're doing the deal, whatever the smaller, internal administrative fees or the like, the second can be done, virtually for nothing. And if we put it together with the first mortgage, then the second comes for Zippo.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a minimum amount that any of our lenders will do a HELOC for? Or is there such thing as a minimum?
I'm going to go back to this quick screen share here.
Mm-hmm.
So they have minimum loan amounts. So here's the twist. I'm going to come down. Minimum initial draw at closing for the equity line with Spring EQ is $50,000. Minimum initial draw. So they're not liking the small equity lines.
Yeah.
If I go to the equity loan, they'll do it all the way down to a $25,000 loan amount. They have adjustments to the pricing. Well, they'll do it down to just $25,000. We're not going to make any money on that. So who's getting who? 1 point on 25,000 is $250. 2 points is $500. So we would be doing it, basically just as a, accommodation, for lack of a better term, in that example, if we were down that loan amount. But yeah, on the fixed rates, Spring EQ would go as low as 25,000, and on the equity lines are as low as 50.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
There are some instances that I looked at one recently that was being offered by Navy Federal Credit Union. It was a small $25,000 second, and Navy Fed, they didn't even have the $7.99 admin fee. So there are certain like low limits that members only credit unions, they're going to look at it and say, hey, we're going to do this to accommodate our members. We're not going to sell it off. We're just going to retain it in our servicing portfolio, and we're going to keep it, and they're going to pay it. And it's anything just like we would sell a credit card.
Okay.
So it's just another iron in the fire for the credit union, but there are credit unions that will take some very, very small loan limits and line sizes.
But how do you qualify for those HELOC?
They're qualified at what they call the fully indexed rate, which is index plus margin. There is a payment that's attached to it. So it's got to go into your total house payment. What loosely our industry calls the total house payment. PITI is principal and interest, payment on the loan, plus property taxes, homeowners insurance. And then if you have HOA, that's included. If you have MI, that's included. But that second mortgage payment would be included as what they call other financing. So it'd be into your total housing payment, and they'd have to qualify with their housing ratio. In second mortgages, they have max ratios just like first. So the seconds, when you look through those rate sheets, some of them are 45%, 50%. They might have pricing adjustments with the higher the debt ratios. So that comes into play also as to, where does it make sense, or does it even make sense at all? I see just a ton of interest in marketing on second trust deeds for home improvement. And quite frankly, it might be that it makes sense for somebody to take a second. It might be that somebody makes sense for them to cash out, do a refinance as the new first. I would say, and I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but from the lending standpoint, certainly, I think we would make more money if there's benefit in taking a cash out refi than doing a small $50,000 second. But most of the people within the company, and if you're getting any pushback, I'm happy to take the call and follow up on it. But rule of thumb is we would rather be seen as someone that is a catch-all and anything that clients need, we can help them out, in comparison to cherry pick. So the 50,000, and I've had these conversations with our ownership group, and right on down to the most newly licensed loan officers. And the fact of the matter is that somebody comes to you for a $50,000 equity line is going to see you as the go-to person. And the second they want to roll that into the new cash out refi or rate and term refi, or the new home purchase, they're going to see as the catch-all, and they're going to come back to you time and time again. So even the smaller ones, I mean, we'll do accommodations for smaller ones too. The 25,000, I'm not sure. It's really tough to even on that pretense. You know, I'd say our minimum, and even to just cover our internal fees, you know, we're probably looking closer at maybe 50,000 or so would be just like by the skin of our teeth, unless it was a piggyback second with the lender that's doing the first. Then we can get by and do the second for nothing.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
The question, when you are with the client, the majority of the time said, if I need to get a second or if I need to get some money, the number one thing, and I want to know what the script is, to deal with that. The first thing they say, okay, I'm going to call my bank to get a second because I already got the loan with them.
Where I would start with everyone, Michael, would be to get upfront to get the snapshot of info. Like, what are they looking to accomplish? So up front, every single person that works in the lending side here from the ground up, and we've talked about this in the early meetings that we've had as far as just initial parameters of any loan. But we take information in, and in the information gathering, I'm going to be asking them, is it a purchase or is it a refinance? If they know what their credit score is, how much money they have total to their name with every single account, any gift funds, anything available to them from that total amount of money they have. How much would you like for cash for closing? What they make for money, what they like to keep the payment to. So when I'm, and this is old school Mike Ferry pre-qualifying 101. If I'm taking the info from them as to what they're looking to accomplish, now it's up to me as an intelligent loan officer to try putting together options for them that make sense for what they're looking to do. You know, and it might be that the second makes sense for them. It might be that it doesn't. You know, it might be that somebody else that they're working with, they're completely just asleep at the wheel. They have no idea what they're doing. Why on earth would they even be offering this or talking to the client about this particular option when something else could be infinitely better? I don't put any shame on companies out there that pitch their products and programs, because most of them offer the best of what they have, and no shame on them. This is what we do.
Great.
It could. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that other people. I think it's the belief of some of these borrowers. They think that's probably their own belief. Well, I already got a loan with my bank. If I need a second, I call them and they will give me a deal. Doesn't mean that nobody offered them. Their belief. You know how people are. So that's why you say, well, let us talk to them and we offer some alternative. What is the choices that we can offer them? So they don't believe that only the bank will give them a best deal.
What I'll say about the options we create for people is, one, I need maybe 3-4 minutes on the telephone. If it's a good quality call and we take good quality information and we're not chit-chatting. But I'm not suggesting I'm going to sell anybody short and sit there with the little, the egg timer. And it's like, you've met your 3-minute allotment. So, I mean, some of the conversations are going to go longer, but if I have a few minutes with somebody, I can take good quality info. I don't charge any money up front to create options. I don't force them to run the credit report, and you have no obligation for me to put the pen to paper, and or fingers to the keyboard to create options for clients. If you like what you see and you would like to move forward with us, do we need to package the loan like any other lender? Yes, we do. So do we need to get, proof of income for those types of programs or bank statements for those types of programs? Whatever the program would require. Are we going to need what anybody else? Yes, we will. But I'm not going to have people and force them to jump through hoops up front. And if it turns out the bank is offering something better, sometimes things sound too good to be true. I'll ask for a breakdown. I don't think it's unfair. Can you get a detailed cost breakdown? Just like I'm sending to you, can you get a detailed cost breakdown from another lender? And sometimes we look at the detailed cost breakdown and quite frankly, they'll lowball certain line items to make it look easy to the eye and good on paper. And when I say that, I've looked at purchase transactions. PRMG is a direct lender. And we're competing with them for financing. They're a direct lender. they put together, and the purchase price is $899.9 on the purchase. The people are putting 20% down payment, so it's not a small loan amount. But they put together and they lowball the property taxes per month. They lowball the homeowner's insurance per month. They lowball the escrow fee and the title fee. None of these fees are going to be real. I'm looking at like, I mean, shame on you. So sometimes, you know, our competition is not shooting straight. All I can do is just call them on it, you know, and try to make sure that I'm offering something that I can stand behind that I know is going to stick. But there are a lot of people in our industry that will lowball somebody, take them off the street, and then sucker punch them at the time of loan docs. But all I ask is just keep us in the mix. If somebody else is going to the bank or going, you know, to another source, you know, if nothing else, you know, it gets back to that old adage. We've said this once, said it 100 times, competition makes the world go round. So just looking at, you know, what's out there, what options are available. I'll tell you, there are people out there. One of our loan officers had one of his best friends close in San Diego County, and the parents gifted them a little over $200,000 for down. The parents gave him 5 years and said, in 5 years, we'd like you to refinance and get us our money back, or sell the house and get us our money back. And they're looking at options now. Get the couple $100,000 as a second, or is it a cash out refi better? And in their case, the cash out refi was better, but it was better to the tune of almost $300 a month. Wasn't even close. And they came to our loan officer, and the husband and our loan officer are best buddies, best man at each other's wedding. And it's just, we just want a second. We're not touching the first. Even our loan officer was like, oh God, he told me he didn't want to touch it. He was adamant about it. I said, we have to do our job well. We just have to do this. If it's not to their betterment and benefit, then we exhausted the opportunity. But if it makes better sense, you can decide to pay more per month. If you want to take the second only, who am I? Take the second only, you know. But you can get a new first mortgage and roll it all together and save significant money over time. So sometimes I only know by putting it down on paper. And then that weighted average, some people, you know, I did those examples where it's really easy to do math in your head. Sometimes, you know, the balance owing is $631,314, and the loan amount they want on the second is $93,000. What have you got? Rate on the first is 2 3/8. Rate on the second is 9.75. You're like, sometimes it's not simple, easy math. I gotta go to the calculator. I gotta start punching stuff in. The blended rate scenario can be done for any situation, and it's all how should I say supported by just simple math. So as soon as I weight the average of the first plus the second and show anybody how it's created, you know, it's just the numbers. You know, that old adage, you know, liars figure, but figures don't lie. The numbers are just the way they sit on paper. It's just, you know, pick a winner. Whichever one makes most sense for you and your family. So they're out there, they're prevalent. Credit card debt is sky high right now. I've mentioned to every one of our loan officers, you know, the reality of, oh no, I'm not touching my first mortgage. Oh no, I got a great rate. I'd be a fool to do anything there. I'm at 2.5. I'm at 3. I'm at whatever, 3.25. But yet you fall into the mix of people that are spending, you know, the credit card debt in the United States of America. Like I say, I mean, I think this calendar year it's to exceed over $1 trillion. There's a lot of credit card debt. You know, it's just at the end of the day, people are not living within their means. I'm not telling anybody how to live, but they're not living within their means of, here's how much money that I make. Here's what we can afford. Here's our budget. And you know, the people that use credit card debt heavily cannot afford the lifestyle that they choose to live and supplement their income with credit card debt. That's it in a nutshell. And they just figure out, we'll pay it off later. We'll get another credit card. We'll get a 0% interest. We'll get something that, you know, doesn't have payments for a year. We'll just continue to kick the can down the road. But, you know, even clients that are out there that have significant credit card debt, I'm not sure if I'm not flipping through everybody on the call, but Hortensia out of our Hemet office had a listing, or Hortensia is on the line. Hi, Hortensia. She had a listing appointment with clients to list the home. Hi. and the money that they were going to net was over $100,000, and they wanted to get into another house where they had so much debt that they could not swing the money that they're getting from the proceeds to go buy the house that they wanted. We put together a cash out refinance. It saved them good money per month. It got them good money in their pocket. They're super happy, you know, and they're more well-grounded now. And they're realizing that, hey, we don't want to let this happen again. Let's stay, you know, true to what our ultimate goal is. We'll continue to just get this paid down, and the time will be right for us, you know, at some point down the road or in the future. Let's see what we got in the chat here. Got Amanda.
And if
So
they want to get a second to buy, you know, an investment property, what will be the percentage the bank will give them on the property?
Well, it really comes down to where you are in your credit score, and your combined loan to value is gonna directly relate to. Valerie, I'll talk about your mortgage insurance thing in a quick second here. So if I go back to the shared screen, bear with me for 2 seconds. Bam, bam. So if you want cash out on a new first mortgage, these are fixed rate seconds. Depends on where you are. The mortgage industry calls it capital stack, how high you are in your loan to value, combined loan to value, how maxed out you are in equity, and then where your credit score is. So this entire thing here is, hey, if I have $1 million property and I owe 500 grand, I want to borrow 200 grand and go put, you know, 50% down on a $400,000 cabin up in the mountains as a second home or a rental, whatever. Well, if I'm a $1 million property, 500 in the first, 200 grand cash out, I'm 70 combined loan to value right in here. My credit score is 700. It's not great. I'm at a 70 loan to value, 700 score, 10.375 rate. Gets you a $200,000 second. And I would be the first one to say, what rate are you paying on your first? Is this 10.375 second that you're seeking better than a cash out refinance in the first? So when you're looking at from standpoint of people pulling equity out of properties, then what is the property I'm pulling equity out of? Is it the primary residence? Is it a second home, or is it a rental? And then does it make better sense to pull the cash out as a second mortgage, or does it make better sense to just do a cash out refi on the first of the second home or the rental, or the primary residence for that matter? So it's all just a matter of just, you know, putting the pen to paper, looking at different options. You know, the Valerie, to answer your question here in the chat box, and it's so open-ended, I can't even reply in the chat box, but what's a new mortgage insurance rate? There's different MI factors for FHA loans than there are for conventional loans. And then just like the rate sheets we looked at on the second set of risk-based pricing, the same with the MI factors, the risk-based pricing, the MI factor goes higher. You pay more for mortgage insurance with the lower the credit score and or the higher the combined loan to value, or the loan to value. Loan to value would be on the first. So the higher you're up, you're 95 loan to value and you're at a 620 credit score, you're more risky. You're going to have higher MI for that conventional loan than would be if you're at the same 95 loan to value with a 720 credit score. So this mortgage insurance rate here, it's not, you know, kind of a set figure and etched in stone. We do have the lender, UWM is United Wholesale Mortgage. They're the biggest wholesaler in the nation. And they have bought very, very favorable MI rates from mortgage insurance companies. And even at the higher LTVs, you know, they're able to beat out and undercut what other lenders are offering for MI. And they're doing it based on volume. So they're able to basically negotiate better deals with mortgage insurance companies, mortgage insurers per se, to get better products based on their volume.
Okay, thank you. So it's actually stagnant. It's not something. I mean, it's actually fluid. So
fluid. Yep, you got it.
Yeah,
you got it. So I mean, keep it super simple. VA's got no mortgage insurance on any loan to value. That's simple. You know, nothing. Don't even worry about it. You know, FHA, there's a really easy. You know, if they're over or less than 5% down, their factor is 0.85%. of the loan amount divided by 12. And if it's 5% down or more, it's only 0.8%. So the FHA is really simple, and then conventional is all over the page.
I just heard that they're talking about lowering it, or
Coming
they have
down. You got it.
Yeah,
You got it. All that's changing. There's new, even what they call loan level pricing adjustments. But Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for second homes, they're putting out some new loan level pricing adjustments. They're all hitting here in the next upcoming weeks. It's going to make second homes, anything other than primary residence, a little bit more expensive. So the agencies, FHA and VA, they don't allow people to purchase second homes or non-owner. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac does, but maybe they've had higher defaults on those, but they are increasing the pricing adjustments for second homes. That's another thing that's coming down the road. And then you nailed it, Valerie, the mortgage insurance, that's all adjusting as of today's news. Guys, got any other questions or comments? I'm not going to stick to a particular topic next Wednesday and the Wednesday after. I literally have, it's a Q&A, and we're going to go through like 25, 6, 7 questions or so each session. And it's pretty rapid fire, but you'll gain a lot of broad-based information. So rather than delve going down the proverbial rabbit hole, it'll be good. It's all good. Who am I kidding? All right, that is all that I have for today. I am, like I say, going to amend the couple of typos. I'll shoot out this little 2-pager that I put out to your emails with there's like 2 or 3 little typo corrections on there, but I want to make it right. And if you have any questions or anything, you have any scenarios, you can always run it by.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
Thank you, Greg.
This is Ayana. I actually just seen on Instagram right now that someone said that HUD is lowering the PMI.
Yeah, so that's what Valerie was just talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're lowering their MI rates.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and but that is literally just hitting. So if like from a social media standpoint, you should be seeing a lot of those flying around because that is big news. And it just happened.
Right, okay.
Any other questions or comments? That's all that I got. It looks like Robert stepped away. But I'm going to go ahead and mute on my side. If you need me, call me anytime. And appreciate the participation. It'll be an understatement. You guys are awesome.